Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Traffic Safety Hotdish. Today, our topic is connecting your traffic safety messages with underengaged and underserved communities. My name is Shannon Grabo, and I'm the Enforcement and Public Information Coordinator for the Office of Traffic Safety, Minnesota Department of Public Safety. I'd like to start today by thanking our hosts and all of our sponsors, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the Minnesota Department of Health, the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, and the Minnesota Department of Transportation. Before we start, we want to make sure you know that this webinar is being recorded and all attendees are muted. You'll be able to find several useful items on the Minnesota TZD website after today's webinar, including PDF copies of the speakers' PowerPoint presentations, a PDF for continuing education credits, and a recording of today's event so that you can enjoy a second helping of this hot dish. Or it might be that there's someone that you know who couldn't join us today and that might be interested in today's hot dish at a later time. I also want to invite you to share any successful programs in your community, and please put that in the chat box so that we can capture your response. Video and audio for all participants is turned off, but you can communicate with the speaker or other participants using chat and Q&A boxes at the bottom of your screen. Please use the chat feature to introduce yourself, share ideas with all participants, or let us know if you're having AV or IT issues. There will be a couple of times throughout the presentation where we prompt some discussion and ask a few questions throughout the chat box. So please share your ideas. We encourage interaction and discussion through the chat. Note that you can send a chat to all panelists or all panelists and attendees, so choose wisely. Use the Q&A feature if you have a question for our speaker. I'll keep an eye on that. If it's relevant and easy to answer at the moment, I may share it with the speaker during the presentation. So first up, we have Sergeant Greg Jordo. Sergeant Greg Jordo started his career with the Portland, Oregon Police Bureau in 2002. In 2007, he moved to Minnesota and began with the Rochester Police Department. He worked as a patrol officer until moving to the Community Action Team in 2015. He was promoted to sergeant in 2017. As a sergeant, he worked night shift patrol, fleet training, and currently is a sergeant of the Community Action Team. In addition, he is also a supervisor for the Project Lifesaver Program, Crisis Negotiations Unit, and the Mobile Response Team. Greg? And I do want to note that during our kind of practice session, Greg was working out some audio issues and a little bit of choppiness in the audio, so we are working on that.
Okay, am I with you now?
Yep, we can hear you, Greg.
Okay.
And Greg does have his camera turned off just to try to strengthen his audio a little bit. You can go ahead and share your screen, Greg, if you can. Great, we can see it. Looks good, Greg. Greg, is your audio on? I'm not hearing you.
You have to let me know. Are you able to hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. We had to switch headsets. Lieutenant Thompson
Perfect.
ran me his quick. Yeah, mine is having some issues. All
yep,
right.
You are much clearer.
Perfect. You're able to see my screen now?
Yep, we can see you.
Okay, so we're gonna go through and talk about our Cops and Kids bike program here in Rochester. So we got that started back, as you can see there from the screen, from in 2018. So I kind of go through how it started, where everything began, and where we are today, and some of the things that it's led to. So from where it all started back in about 2007. I was on the community action team as an officer at that point. We were invited out to a meeting with public health. Let's see if I can. And once we got out there, they discussed that they had some funding, that they were interested in restarting a bike program with the city of Rochester. So we took a look at that, and they were talking about, as you can see from the screen, there's some significant funding dollars of over $7,000. At that point, I kind of came off this a little bit. I was going to get promoted shortly, and when that happened, I knew I'd be sent to patrol and removed from the team. So it was left with the other officer senior officer on the team behind me to kind of take and run with this, knowing that it was going to be a long-term commitment. So initially they looked at how can we get things set up, and with that they did 4 outfitted police bikes, some police bike training, a couple of bike racks for transportation, 3 helmets, and a tire pump. And that's kind of how it got it off the ground. And that was all through the statewide health improvement partnership. And this was through our Olmsted County public health. That's who set this up, kind of brought the idea to us, and we went from there. So that's where we went. We'd had bikes here in the department prior, but it was pretty much just a hodgepodge of everything that you could imagine for bikes. It might be mix of truck bikes, giant bikes, bikes of different colors. You know, somebody might be wearing their helmet from home, so it might be red, or next guys would be green. There was no uniformity. So this allowed us to get collectively some new updated bikes that also weren't 20 years old, actual updated lighting, gear bags, and shoes. So yeah, actually they were able to look more like a bike team. So we had to figure out where are we gonna go now that they had the team. So some of the things they came up with were enforcement, like police departments typically think is, okay, we're going to look at some other bike units and how are we going to operate. So with that, kind of went down the enforcement idea, bike patrols downtown, some bike theft stings, and then we can look at partnerships with public health, scouts, SAC, which is school age childcare, bike rodeos, bike clinic, helmet giveaways, workforce probation, which I don't really know what the idea was with that one. I don't know how we were assist there, but that was on the list of things they had that they initially thought of, just generating ideas, partner with bike shops. So with the ordinances, for example, we have our downtown business district, we get a lot of issues and complaints with people on the sidewalks with bikes and scooters. And we have a lot of, where you can patrol parking ramps and different things of such. For example, bike thefts, we could be way more mobile. So I know one time we had set up actually outside of an area, we had a lot of bike thefts, and we sat there for like 3 or 4 hours, put a really nice bike out front, and we didn't get any takers, and we left and went back, and then took our bike back, and 10 minutes later had a bike stolen from that location. So that was an example of things that we tried initially, just starting out with the program and not really knowing where to go. There's another thing, we had our Thursdays on First, try to learn about bike safety. And again, this is a lot of, as you can tell here, the no bicycling on the sidewalks, walk your bike ordinances. It's a common complaint downtown. So we were still, things were a little bit more focused on the enforcement side of things. So once they had that up and rolling, well, now you have the bikes, and we had the basic helmets and gear, but what do we do next? And this is where I think it was, which led to where and where we are now and started shortly after. So identifying your problems is additional funding for more equipment, bike stands for repairs, tools and toolboxes. Real quick, you discover when you go out to a place that when you have a lot of kids coming, if you go to an apartment complex or something like that, a hand pump is going to go really slow. So to have an air compressor, a generator, you still want, bike pumps that people can use, and then parts. Where do you get these parts? A lot of times these kids will show up with bad tires. Maybe they have a flat tire, they need a new tube. There could be a brake that's bad. Just in general, how you're going to continue to run the program. And then other things is, how do we find bikes for those in need? How do you connect with those people in need? I mean, as a police department, you have a lot of those areas that are difficult to reach. Where do you store the equipment in the bikes, and how do we transport it all? So these ideas eventually progressed to more of a community-based approach. So they started looking, developing partnerships. This is just throughout your community, and a lot of this you'll discover it's a guessing game. You kind of got to take your shot at where do you think you're going to find the most help. And you'll learn as you go that some areas you think would be great aren't, and some that you think wouldn't be are really helpful. Financial partners. You got to start asking around. You'll get a lot of help from a various number of people once they learn what you're doing. And then as far as equipment, the starting out small out of a car, which is where we started at, with the basic toolkit, a handstand and a pump. And then to go, as they have here, all in with the trailer, which we eventually worked up to, is an actual trailer we pull with decals, a generator, and all the equipment to put inside of it. And then program applications. That's pretty much endless. It's all depends how far you can think ahead. Be creative. So first thing we did is we started looking at the sponsors. And start to think, who's your target audience, of how you can make it worth their value, the value and exposure, how are you going to get their name out there for what they do. Things they're going to look for, is it a one-time event or multiple times, as far as what their money they're putting into it, and who are the other sponsors. You want to think of, a lot of times, like when we were first starting out here, you'll see we had Walmart and Target. One of the things we've learned along the way with events that we run is it is usually best when you pick sponsors from different that don't overlap. And for example, using Walmart and Target for the same one, we typically avoid it. We try to say, if we're going to use something, we might want to use a bank, but you only use one bank. And if you're going to use one convenience store, just one convenience store, and give that one sponsor the entire focus. You can use multiple sponsors for one event, but don't have where they overlap. And initially we had that a little bit here, but we were just starting out and guessing at it. It was one of the things we learned along the way. So here are some of our initial sponsors. Oh, we can get back to that. Click too fast. Walmart, Target, Olmsted County Public Health, and Acts for Kids. With your sponsors, be sure to thank them. We put everything out, get a lot of pictures, put it out on Facebook, and make sure, or however else you can get it out there, and tag. I'm not a social media guy, but tag and add people, so they're all linked to everything that you do. Eventually, we were able to purchase the trailer. Spring of 2018. You can kind of see the pricing there it was rather expensive. And then the decals and generator, everything we put in it. But this is right now probably one of the critical things that we have. It was a huge expense, but this is an unbelievable help. It's a giant billboard for our program. We're able to transport equipment. It's got our workstation storage. We can throw a tent and a table right out the back of it. But considerations you need to have is, where do you store it? How do you pull it? What do you stock it? And once you reach this level, you're pretty much committed to a program at your department once you put that kind of money. So inside, this is kind of what we have. One of the relationships we built over time was with the Carpenters Union. So they actually did all the work and then the trailer for us and built shelves. We've used them with the department for other things as well. So that's, different relationships that you can find super helpful. Things, but then on the inside of this, you can see we have our parts, a workbench, a generator, and compressor up in the front on the floor, and then various tools. We've created a place to hold helmets, parts underneath the workbench. And then we have in the upper left there, you can see in the back, we have a canopy, table, and chairs. And that is extremely helpful when you go out and do various events. Somehow I bypassed a slide there. There we go. So on the outside, then we made sure once we had our funding, want to make sure that you have money set aside for logos too. Anything we do, we use, whether it's t-shirts or, for example, the trailer, make sure the sponsors that it's well noted. The formatting of logos when you do this, always make sure you reach out, even for t-shirts, anything. Everybody changes logos quite often. I didn't realize, but in the private sector, they often do this year to year, and they make very minor changes that nobody would notice, but it's just enough that it keeps people's eyes catching from year to year. So you don't want to use, just pull a logo and send it in. If you have a sponsor, make sure you get a hold of them for their most current logo. You can also consider using vendors as a sponsor. We've done that recently with some of our t-shirts that we've printed, and we've been able to take like a $20 t-shirt down to $13 by putting the t-shirt company on the back well as a sponsor. So we can use them as a resource. Colors, consider colors for everything too. For example, that way you can make things pop. So in 2018, when they got off and running, you can kind of see here what they did. A variety of events that they ran, and they were pretty much taking bikes to everything they could think to take a bike to, just to see kind of what would stick. So there's some specific bike programs here and some that were not, but they just took a bike there to get exposure and see where it go. It'll bring up a lot of discussion amongst other people at other events, which then leads to different things down the road. So as you can see here are some photos from right away where they set up the events. They weren't big to start, a little bit smaller. You get a few people out, but the impact is pretty great. And once you get it started, once they may seem like small, eventually some of these get to be rather large events. But the difference you can make where the amount of people that come out and the impact you can make on a community by handing out a bicycle, as I've discovered in this unit, is enormous. Between the families in these, what do we say, the underserved neighborhoods, they come out, the parents come out, and makes a huge difference in their lives. And for the officers that, who aren't necessarily involved, but they respond there for calls later on, people remember that we were out and did these little things. Just a few more photos here. One of the things I want to point out here is, as you see in the middle on the top towards with fixing the bicycles, you will want, that's one thing we discovered that is of critical importance. You need to have some basic bike knowledge. You don't need to be a miracle worker, and most all of us has picked up on it, but how to change a tire, put a new tube in, put a new outer tire on, adjusting seats, just the basics. A lot of times these kids are, the bikes they have are very poor condition, and we're able to do a lot of changes with just fixing them up. So where you see the picture of us fixing a bicycle, that is virtually every event we go to. It's just that important. So we move on to kind of where we've progressed to. So initially we didn't have, a lot of it. We had a 28 bikes or 28 events that first year. Now our team, we do about 145 different events in a calendar year that we're a part of or organize. 28 this year, just specific bike events in itself, and those would be such things as bike rodeos. And we'll cover kind of where we get to there. So with our partnerships and how we got there, you can see different people, organizations to use to help you get to where you want to be with the media and public health. And PAL is our Police Activities League, Rochester Public Schools, the Mayo Clinic, as far as safety, extremely helpful, the local bike shops, apartment managers, and our school resource officers. So it's this is our breakdown this year of bike events and who we utilized. And this is one of the things you learn over time, or at least we did, is where's your best resource? And this can kind of help us narrow down who we can use to reach kids. As you can see in the middle there, public schools is our number one resource, followed by reaching out to some of the apartment complexes. So what we use for the schools to assist with them is various bike rodeos. It's extremely helpful because they can do them. We have parking lots right there. We use bike rides. They do some bike to school at the beginning of the year, and they also now do things during the school year. We do fix it with them with in case kids bring their bikes to school for a lot of these events, then we can actually do some repairs. Then we also participate in the walk school day and bike school day. So one of our biggest help is Dustin, who works with the Rochester Public Schools. Dustin is an extreme value to us. He coordinates everything through the school districts. So we do a lot of things together with their bike program. We also have the advantage that Rochester Public Schools received a big grant, I think last year, the year before, I think it might have been last year, to obtain that trailer that you see there. And with that trailer, also those bikes that were lined up and the helmets. This was a huge help because when you have and you're trying to put on a bunch of events, a lot of people want to come and do these things, or especially a lot of your kids from that you're trying to reach may not have a bicycle already, or if they do, it's in pretty poor condition. So this has been an absolute game changer. The school was able to get this, and we coordinate with him a lot on this, and he will he has this out at all the school events, and we can show up, and then the kids have plenty of bikes to use and the helmets. But if not, that's one of the issues that comes up, is the supply of bikes for events. That's one thing you'll have to consider and take into account, is where you're going to get the bikes for the kids to use. As far as also another big help that's really helped with us is in 2023, state of Minnesota now mandates all public schools receive age-based education on walking and bicycling safety. So with that, part of their curriculum is involving a lot of bike programming. So Dustin will call us, and it really gets us connected with a lot of these kids. So here's some of the things we've done. This is just a Gibbs Elementary. When we go out, we ride with the kids, we teach them to ride a bike, make it fun, and have stuff giveaways if you can. Even a few helmets or t-shirts we'll give to people who can answer questions. Or the kid in the middle, for example, when we go out, we typically will, almost each event, teach one or two kids that absolutely have no clue how to ride a bike, and they kind of sit off to the side, and we take them and we'll teach them how to ride a bike, usually within an hour, and get them up and running. And then when they do that, if possible, we'll try to get that kind of helmet, or we, when we can, we'll even get them a bicycle, whether it's one of our recycle bikes that we'll talk about here in a little bit, or if we can get our hands on a new bike for somebody that doesn't know how to ride a bike. And that works out really well at these events. Makes the kids pretty excited, and the friends are usually pretty excited too that they learn how to ride a bike. Another event here, Riverside Elementary. You can varies some people that you want to get involved. As you can see here, we have teachers involved, we get parents involved, and we utilize the schools. When you do these events, you need a big parking lot or you need a big play area that doesn't have cars parked on it. Schools are ideal situation for that. As you can see in the upper left picture, this is one I always like to point out. It doesn't have anything to do with the bike rodeo, but that's a lot of what takes place at these events. Is you see the officers just sitting on the bench with the kids coming up and talking to them. And that's where a lot of the value comes from at these events. Elton Hills Elementary. Again, you can see the bike fixing that we're doing, being able to fit a helmet. And then we always try to, again, as much as we can, advertise and thank our sponsors to help out. So we have a pop-up sign you can see in the lower right in the middle that we'll put that up everywhere too, that advertises what we're out doing and who has helped us specifically to do those things. And then as far as supplies for a rodeo, that you can be as creative as you want. From some of these pictures you'll see is, for example, this one, kids love the tunnel. You get yourself some tall cones. Inside that we use wooden dowels, and then we get noodles, and then just get matching duct tape. And you can duct tape 2 noodles together, and away you go with a tunnel. And then from there, it's pretty much anything you can think of create on a blacktop, and the kids love it. This Longfellow Elementary, this is another example of where we do a bike ride and a rodeo. Involvement here is in the middle picture. That's actually one of our school resource officers. Again, when you're at the schools, if you have school resource officers, they're great. The kids already know them. These guys are used to working with the kids. Works out really well, and we use them when we use them on the bike rides. And then again, you can see one of the courses on the bottom on the left. That was a couple. We had a lot of kids this one, so we had a couple different tunnel routes for that one. And up on the upper left is Officer Bradley, and this little boy was so excited that Officer Bradley was there, and it was the only person he would let him show how to ride a bike. And his mom came over, and this was just flat out an advantage of having an officer, a minority officer, because that little boy said that man looks like me, and can he teach me how to ride a bike? And made the little guy's day. Back to school ride. Here we have just back to school day. The kid on the upper left, we were able to get him a brand new a bicycle that day. With that, reach out to the school district. If you have things you want to do, they always know who the kids are in need. Apparently this kid is really helps care for his little brother, gets him to school, helps him get there every day. Actually had the little brother fall into a pond one day in the wintertime. He went in and got him out, got the kids, his brother clothes, got him to school, and just this kid that does everything to help his brother. So as the school district asked if we get him a bicycle, we did, and you can see by his reaction, he was ecstatic, and everybody there really enjoyed it. Walk to school days. It's another great opportunity to reach out to the kids. We do it in the winter and the spring. Invite others along. It's a great media opportunity. You can get anybody involved extra. In the wintertime is in the upper right. You can see we involved the hockey team and then the local RCTC football team. And then our, Conquerors mascot came out for the one we just did a couple of weeks ago. Property management. This is who we work with. We target different apartment buildings, and this is just so we can set up and do events with them. This works out really well because once you get to know a lot of your apartment managers, oftentimes they will do events with their staff, and they get in for the community. So we just partner up. They've already got the food, so we usually bring a grill out, and we'll grill their food. The kids and families come up and talk to us, and we fix bikes. We don't really do any bike rodeos, but we just fix the bikes and hang out with everybody, and that goes over very well. Here's some of the ones. We'll go a couple of them we do. Not every event is big, so you can go ahead of time. This one we did do a bike rodeo for, which is a rarity for us, but they had asked for that, so we were able to do that. Things to keep in mind is you don't have a lot of help then. You don't have the school district, you don't have parents, you don't have teachers, so you got to really plan ahead. Weather, if it's going to rain, it's going to be tough to do the chalk. You got to have a place for a course, and then the time of day. When are you going to be able to do it with kids having school? So a lot of things to consider there. Gage East, this is homeless families and teens is where this reside here. So we make a point to get out there. And this one, we, as an example, what we recycled some bikes, as we call it, is we had a family just had a whole bunch of bikes that their kids had outgrown, donated them to us. So we pumped them right back out to some kids in need, and we're able to get them a bunch of bikes. Gates of Rochester, huge apartment complex. Didn't have a great turnout at this, but the ones that did, you can see how they relaxed and excited they were. So it's still good to get out there. And again, as you can see, our bike fix it thing, that's how we look at every one of them. There's usually just a line. School resource officers, that's who part of we utilize for help, just like we do with teachers and everybody else. They also assist us with our SAC programs. Again, this is a great way to get in front of kids. This be in the summertime where the kids are at the schools. We go to the schools and we talk about bike and walking safety. And again, this is where the school district is a huge help to us. Boulder options, this is like big brothers, big sisters. So we've in the past done a lot of bike rides for them. It's part of their plan where they can earn I think it's some kind of, it's a Target gift card maybe through Boulder options if they complete so many miles biking. So we often have been out and helped them, but that's just another avenue of who you can help. Other ones that really help us out is Olmsted County Public Health. So this is Joanne. Joanne is right up there with Dustin, is who's huge. You're going to find your partners, and those are the two that we find are extremely helpful. This is, again, how our bike program really got off the ground, is by working with public health. And Joanne was a big part of that. She still is a big part of a lot of things we do today. This is an event, actually, I give her credit to, that we were working on. And this was because of the bike rodeos that we do. It was to create an actual video of a bike rodeo production from start to finish, so that can be sent out and have it created that anybody can pull up and see instructions on how to create a bike rodeo and how to run it. So that a video guy there all day was doing a great job, and we had a variety of things with you can see in the middle box, there's what we call the chaos box, and it's just where kids got to ride around and not hit each other or put their feet down. And then we'd have on the lower right is an example of what we call slow race, and you see how slow people can go. And in that one, we put bean bags out for them to dodge. But it's a wide variety of whatever you can come up with for kids to do. But this one, we were able to have multiple stations. We had the park property, and this one she used a homeschool community to do the bike program, to get outside the school district and look for a different set of kids that we normally wouldn't reach. This went really, really well until the guy put his drone up in the air for the aerial footage and ran into a tree. And then that kind of ended our day. So I don't have the update where it is. We just were working on this recently, but it's a great idea, and I'm sure it's going to get finished. We just got to finish that out. Meadow Park neighborhood. We went to, this is another area that we normally don't get into as much, so we set this one up on our own. Some of the things we learned from, again, the course location, we used a church parking lot. It's a great avenue to use when you're, trying to find an area where cars won't be parked during the week. Food, we found a local organization that works with kids after school. They provide the food. They were also able to advertise within the neighborhood to get the kids to show up. Bikes is an issue. We're used to the school district helping us out, so we actually worked with somebody that had some bikes and dropped a few off. You can always encourage kids from the neighborhood to bring bikes, but again, then you miss some kids that don't have a bike. confirm the details. This was one of the learning lessons we had here is we tried to do this in conjunction with another organization, and there were some issues with the food where they said they had food, didn't have enough food, and then when they did bring stuff, it was frozen. And I mean, so it's really, you want to pay attention when you work with or that organizations that don't do things on a regular basis to work out the details. And like I said, the volunteers was one for us too. The other thing we use here a lot in the department is the media. The media is your friend. We invite them to all sorts of things, and it really looks good to get your information out there. So use it as much as you can. If they're having a slow media day, they will be more than happy to come out, at least in our experience. Our Police Activities League, they're extreme helpful. This is it's an organization on the side, and they do a lot of fundraising, and we're able to utilize some of the money that they do. For example, this year they have volunteers that come out and will help us grill at a lot of events. They will also sometimes, depending on the event, provide funds for us for the food, the grill, the propane. They actually purchase the grill for us, and then they do the propane refills. And freezies. And then as you can see in the upper left one, this is one that we kind of stumbled across, is the snow cones. We have a little just crusher machine. We actually stole the idea from apartment complex, but it's been absolutely amazing. We found that anything we give out, usually for food, you can get kids to come over to you for a freezie or an ice cream or anything, but for whatever reason, the snow cones is when they come over and they do the snow cone and we put the flavoring on the top, unlike everything else where kids tend to take it and walk away, snow cones turns into almost like this, I guess, like a bar type atmosphere, if you were to say, is the kids will sit there and talk to you while they eat the snow cone. And for whatever reason, other things we give away, it doesn't seem to work, but the snow cones generates more interaction than anything else we've discovered. So with all these things that we do, we're starting to figure out it takes a lot of man hours to do so. And with that, you need your support from leadership. So as you can see here, this is all in the last year. These are our 4 captains and our chief. Because if you don't have their support, it's going to be difficult. They need to understand the importance of those relationships in the community. And you can see from these pictures here, they all get involved. This is an unintended part of our program, is what we call our bikes in or our bikes out. This we discovered after we started doing a lot of the bike programming. We started having people ask and say, hey, can you get us a bike, or can we give you a bike? So we started doing a lot of taking the bikes that people want to donate or that we can get from places, and we recycle them back out. So it's led to a few things. Our biggest primary sources where we get our bikes are, number one is from Walmart. If Walmart receives bikes that say they get returned, somebody takes it home, puts it together, gets returned, it's got an issue. Well, now it's out of the box and it's an open bike, and there's no convenient way for to ship it. And if $100 bicycle, it's probably more work than it's worth for them to send it back. So often Walmart will get a number of these and they'll give them to us. And then those minor problems, we will get parts for, fix that bicycle, and we'll send it back out to the community. We also use Facebook. We promote our bike program very well, and we have a lot of citizens who call in saying, hey, I see what you do with those bikes. That's a great thing. Hey, I have an old bike in my garage. Do you know somebody that could use it? So we get that bike and we'll pump that bike back out to the community. And as well as recovered abandoned bicycle, we start working with our property evidence room. And as time goes by, where those bikes have not been, an owner has not been determined, we will take the good bikes and kind of repurpose those as well. But with that, you got to have some considerations for it. You're going to store the bikes, because if you leave them outside, they're going to get, with the weather, they're going to get in pretty rough shape. You need to have, again, the basic bike person. You don't need to be a miracle worker, but you need to have some basic bike skills. Those you can obtain most of the, even like bike areas that we've talked to. We've had people say, yeah, you guys want to come down and learn for an hour? We'll show you how to do some basic stuff. And what are you going to do with the bikes? So here's where we pump them back out. We'll work with, again, elementary schools that we get them back out to. As you can see on the far right, even on the upper one, it's just And we kind of find that now that we have those connections, we used to have to reach out and say, hey, we do these things. Do you have somebody who could use a bike? But now we have enough connections where people will get a hold of it and say, hey, I have this person that's really deserving needing a bike. We also use other officers involved to get them out and deliver these bikes. So it's not just us. So the other officers understand the importance of it. And then we kind of prioritize where they go. So here's one of the places that we give them to. A lot of these places are either, for example, we do a lot of recovery homes, and we try to prioritize if somebody needs a bicycle. We look at, is it not just somebody calling us for a bike, or you get people a call nonstop. So we try to look at what is their need for a bike. And a lot of the ones we give are either they're in recovery homes, it's part of their exercise program, or often what we do is we prioritize the ones that now have a job, but due to some of their prior issues, they don't have a driver's license and they're trying to get back on their feet and they're having to walk 2-3 miles to work. So we make it a focus to get them a bicycle and we put them ahead. That prior slide you've seen, there was a whole truckload of bikes, and we delivered that to a Doc's recovery house. As far as our funding goes, a variety of resources here that we put in for grants, and we have a grant writer who kind of handles all that. With that, to help out with that, here's just an example of how I keep track of what we do. This is just the month of September this year for us, and that's kind of how the amount of time spent and where we do with things to help substantiate when we're doing grants. This last year, we received a big one, a Governor's Highway Safety Association grant, and this was $25,000. There were $75,000 that split amongst 3 states. We were one of 3. So here was our primary focus. We worked our way through Lime scooter safety, safety nights, walking safety, seatbelt challenge. You hear and bicycle events and some skateboarding. So I'll work through some of those real quick and kind of what we did. Here we did our safety nights. We have about 750 to 1,000 people come out to this each year. It's a big safety event with all city entities that will come out, and we did a scavenger hunt where if they went around and met with all the different entities, they could earn a chance to win a bicycle. We'll back up one quick. Back to school event. Is here we did the same thing. Big party, went out and gave away a whole pile of bicycles and scooters. Scooter safety, we use the Thursdays on First to work on getting everybody to understand what we need to do there. And on the left there, you see another banner we use for that. Skateboard event, we went out, met with a skate park, have an open house. Again, a good group of kids that we normally don't reach. And we had a great time there, did a lot of education, as you can see on the lower left, as far as safety and ordinances. We involve our Explorer program, taught them how to run bike safety courses and bike rodeos. So then we also did a safety walk with low-income kids, how to get them a pair of shoes. So we just kind of figured out what we were going to do with that. And we reached out and we found that we did a walk safety program with these different organizations, which would be the public schools, the women's shelter, Family Promise helps out with homeless families, and the Jeremiah program, which is single mothers. And here's how we were able to do that. We worked out with a shoe company and found ourselves some sponsors. So it was a great event. A few things we determined though that were tough is, again, with the organizations, things you want to think about are, as we're doing it this fall when school's in session and trying to deal with after school time, coordinating shoe sizes and relying on other organizations became tough. And so we had some few things that we had to deal with there, which this is our first year from this, but it's just like the bike stuff, things that we learned from. And then lastly, what we did this year is we assisted a different agency and got them up from kind of 0 to 100 in a matter of no time with a bike. Wanted to run a bike rodeo, so I brought him in, showed him our kit, taught him how to set it up, got them a location. They get some assistance from the fire department, some other people in town, and they've reached out for sponsors and told them get it on Facebook and thank everybody. And they were able to get, in a matter of a few weeks, like 11 or 12 bikes and helmets, and got everything up. And they were doing some repair work out there, and then they got thank yous out to their sponsors. So here's my team. Here's what we all do to put this together. And here is my contact information if you have any questions.
Thank you, Greg. And I just want to remind everybody to please put your questions in the Q&A so that we can have time for questions and answers at the end. So next up, we have Tim Condon. Just a moment here. We have Officer Tim Condon from the Rochester Police Department. Officer Condon is a school resource officer at Rochester Century High School. He's worked as a police officer for 9 years, the last 4.5 years at Rochester PD. He has served as a field training officer, crisis negotiator, crisis intervention training coordinator, and is in his 3rd year as a school resource officer.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm just going to talk for a few minutes here about our seatbelt challenge in Rochester. The Rochester school resource officers have tried to bring this event back post-COVID. It is an event that we have done for a number of years in Rochester before COVID happened, and it was a big part of our engagement in the spring with students in the school. So I'm just going to first go over what is the seatbelt challenge, or how do we do the event in Rochester. Here's an example photo from one of our events this spring. The seatbelt challenge is some variety of these basic rules. We have a team of 4 students or staff that race to buckle themselves into every seat in a vehicle. All the participants start belted into one of the spots on the car. The car doors are open the whole time. We have a school resource officer that has a whistle and is kind of organizing each race in each of the races for the seatbelt challenge. So on the whistle, the participants unbuckle, change seats, and rebuckle into a new seat in the car. When everybody's seatbelted in at the same time, that school resource officer will blow the whistle again in order to signal that the participants can change seats. And that process repeats until each person has buckled into each seat in the car and they return all the way to their original starting position. And there'll be another school resource officer recording times and helping with registration. And so we make it a competition style event where we record the times for each group of students. In our particular events, we partnered with some of this grant money that Sergeant Trudeau talked about, and the screen printing shop in Rochester to get t-shirts for participants. And Quick Trip gas stations were a partner of ours, and they donated gift cards to each school for the fastest teams. And so that was part of our coordination on the day of the event, was organizing in order to make sure we recorded times and team members and names and whatnot. So this is just an example of a registration form that we use. Most of the students completed just the day of the event, right before they participated. And so it was really easy for them to just write down each of the team member names really quickly. We're doing this at 3 public schools in Rochester. And so at least this last year, in the past, it's been at even more sites. And so we just wanted to record who at what school, what grades, be able to get a little bit of data to focus our efforts for the next year on outreach and who we need to engage with more. And then while each team is waiting for their time to go, they're able to read through on the right-hand side of your screen there, just a quick version of the rules. This video that I'm going to play is a promotional video that we did for this year this past spring when we brought back the seatbelt challenge. The audio was a little choppy during our practice session, so I just hope it works here. All right.
All right, guys, I want you to take a look at this video from 2018. What y'all trying to do? I think we can do better, guys. What do you think? I'm a dangerous man with some money in my pocket. Keep up. I'm in a pretty girl around me and they're waking up the pocket. Keep up. Why you mad? Fix your face. Ain't no more on the top. Keep up. Play it on there. Come on. What's up? Bring us. Keep up. What y'all trying to do?
All right, so that was just a good example of a good visual for you of what the Seatbelt Challenge is, how we ran it here in Rochester. Some of the background stuff for our particular events, we used some of this grant money that Sergeant Godot talked about, focused on youth mobility, traffic safety, underserved communities, and we used a portion of those funds for the shirts. This is an example of one high school's shirts that we gave away to participants. We just screen printed at a local shop that, we put their logo on the back to help reduce cost. All of the sponsor logos got on the back. So the school district, some of the state agencies, the grant money agencies, as well as Quick Trip. And we used vehicles for the Seatbelt Challenge that we also use in our RPD school district driver's ed partnership program that you'll hear about in a little bit from Lieutenant Thompson. So we're trying to keep this low cost. What was the impact of our event this year? John Marshall High School was the first day that we did the event. Century High School was the second day, and Mayo High School was the third. So it just continued building throughout the week as people heard about our event and got more and more spectators to watch. We did it during the lunchtime in an area of the school that was really accessible to people that were able to just come out and watch really quickly. One of the important parts of our Seatbelt Challenge here in Rochester was education around seatbelt usage. The event itself is really easy to demonstrate how quickly you can buckle and unbuckle a seatbelt, and so we wanted to kind of reinforce that with surveys. Our grant also required some survey data, and so we used just a quick 3-question survey about traffic safety and seatbelt usage to record some data and provide a little bit of an educational component. We required the survey completion in order for participants to get prizes. So it was really easy to say, fill out the survey, you get a free t-shirt, or you get some police department swag or gift cards for Quick Trip if you win. Student engagement is really big in Rochester here with our school resource officer unit, and this was another event that was really easy to engage in a non-confrontational, just social event with students. We partnered with our school district equity specialist, who's in the lower left picture from Mayo High School. He's one of our school district equity specialists and helped us engage with students that we don't have a lot of traction with historically, or maybe we don't have as easily of communication with traditionally, the police department. And so we use them to help get as many people to our events as possible. And we had a lot of staff participate. It just really helped reinforce that this was a community event at our school. And then the bottom right photo is one of our winning teams from Century High School. They were pretty happy to get a $5 gift card to Quick Trip for their winning time. What's next for us in Rochester? Well, I talked a little bit about pre-COVID. We did this event in Rochester. We actually participated countywide, and so our goal in Rochester is to build this back to a countywide event where the top teams from each school are going to compete at a neutral site or another day, where our 3 high schools in Rochester might compete against the high schools out across Olmsted County, so Dover, Yoda, Byron, Stewartville. Make it into a little bit more of a Southeast regional event. All these pictures that you saw were from our event this spring, and so it's just a great demonstration of our ability to connect with kids. And Officer Smith here is showing a little bit of school spirit with a lot of the sports guys. They really get into this, the competitive nature of it. So it's a really good event to get going and be able to connect with kids at your schools. That's a good overview of our events. Here's my contact information.
All right, thank you, Tim. And next up, and just to remind you guys that we will have a Q&A at the end, so keep putting those questions in either the chat or the Q&A. I will get back to those. Next up, we have Lieutenant Josh Thompson. Lieutenant Josh Thompson has been with the Rochester Police Department for 23 years and is assigned to the department's Community Services Division. He currently oversees the department's school recruitment, hiring, and background investigation process. During Lieutenant Thompson's career, he was a school resource officer and juvenile crimes investigator before being promoted to sergeant in 2013 and lieutenant in 2017. He has also attended DRE school and DRE SFST instructor school and taught at the Rochester Technical and Community College's Skills for 15 years. And Lieutenant Thompson, you can share your screen.
All right, good morning. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, I know my video has been a little fuzzy, and so I'm gonna just keep that off. So I'm here to kind of speak about our driver education mentorship program. My slides are not nearly as extravagant as the last two, but it's kind of straightforward, and a lot of the things that are being run through this are kind of in our school district and their staff, and we're just kind of assisting. And I don't want to speak too much of theirs, but I will have some contact information on there as well. But kind of how it started with us is we just kind of identified some problems within our community, especially with kind of that teen age, where we're noticing that a lot of, yep.
Kenna, could you share your screen, your PowerPoint?
Oh, I thought I had that shared, sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
Oh, is it there now?
Yep, we can see
Okay.
now, thank you.
I forgot to hit okay. And so what we're finding is there's a lot of, especially in our represented community, our community of color especially, where there's a lot of kids that we're noticing they'd have a hard time getting a driver's license, whether it's because driver's ed classes weren't affordable, maybe they didn't have support at home, transportation to get to class, and have maybe access to vehicles, whatever the case is. And kids are going to drive anyways, right? So by 16, 17, 18, 19, we're finding kids they're getting a ticket for driving without a driver's license, and now their license is revoked or suspended as a result, or then they have trouble paying fines. So it's hard to dig out of that hole once that starts. And then as they get older, it's going to help, or it's going to affect them with access to jobs, access to further education, access to even maybe healthcare, just getting places. And it just puts that, it's that target on their back a little bit that they just can't get out of it. So we started kind of looking at contacting our driver's ed programs in town, and it just kind of coincidentally happened that our school district had gotten a grant for at least probably the last 30 plus years. Our school districts have not been involved in driver's ed, and found that across the country, schools providing driver's education is becoming much more scarce than it had been decades ago. So our school district was able to secure a grant to allow for, I think this is the second year, so it's a little bit in its infancy yet, but they were able to secure a grant for 30 students to go through driver's ed. And then part of that, when I spoke with the school district, was that the kids that they're doing this are kids that are more low families that are more low income and apply and approve for the driver's education through the school. So a lot of these families don't have either access to vehicles, maybe they're single parent homes, and parents are working a lot and trying to find the ability to have time to take kids driving. So we partnered with the school district, and we have a number of our officers and our staff that are partnered with some of these kids to get them their driving hours. And so we're trying to get officers to commit to about 15 to 20 driving hours per student. And along with that, one of the other problems is getting kids just to go get their permit test. So we've worked with just kind of our connection with the Driver's License Bureau and the DMV to get reserve times with them, where we'll bus maybe 15, 20 kids at a time, or the Driver's License Bureau, get them to take their permit test, and then get them back to school, do that like during a school day. Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of straightforward. It's our biggest challenge right now is just getting officers and staff. We've also included the fire department. The school district was able to secure a few different vehicles that they can use. But it's been a great experience for those that have been involved in it. Just being able to kind of build relationships and really engage with some of these kids that maybe have maybe their involvement or their interactions with law enforcement especially has maybe been more negative just because of the community and the environment that they're in. But yeah, just kind of, I guess, the gist of it. My information is here if there are questions. I know this made kind of some national news through public radio, and we were getting some phone calls from some different agencies like Denver PD, I know, is one that had heard about it. And so just trying to, I know there's a lot of grant opportunities out there. We were actually just able to secure a $2,500 grant with the police department towards this program that we intend to use for maybe whether it's some gas cards, maybe some scholarships for some other things with driver's ed. Right now, I think the school, I don't know what they're working towards, and that would be something I've included Lucy Baree with Rochester Public Schools. That's her email address. She's overseeing all of that with the school district. So she could really explain more how, like, the grant that they've gotten, how they were able to secure that, some of the things they're doing internally. Our role really is just that engagement part, that building relationships part, mentoring some of these kids that they've identified, the kids that are selected to go or to get the driver's ed for free through the schools, which is actually now this last year is up to 90 students. So they can speak to that more and how they secured all that. But our role and our success is just building those relationships, being able to provide a mentorship and getting these kids to be in a position where they have driver's licenses and are not getting tickets. Or they're able to get one, and just so they don't end up in the hole that a lot of kids have been found to be in. So.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And at this time, speakers, can I have you all turn on your cameras just during the Q&A session so that people can see who we are asking questions to? Perfect. If possible, I know some of you guys had shaky internet, so thank you very much. Okay, so at this time, just a moment here, share my screen. This time I want to move to the question and answers. While we're doing some question and answers, please complete the evaluation survey. There's the QR code right there. And I'm just going to move to the chat here so that I can go into, actually, I'm going to take one from the Q&A first. And I believe this one is probably for Greg. Do you teach the kids how to fix their own bikes? Greg, we can't hear you. Nope, we still can't hear you. Maybe while you try to figure that out, I'll move to the next question in the chat. Okay. And one person asked, do you use a curriculum? And I'm not, oh, that was to Josh.
I'm looking for the question.
It's in the chat. It's up near the top. I'm just kind of starting at the top.
Okay, what's the question again? I'm trying to
It
scroll
says,
through
do you use a curriculum?
So one of our local driver's ed programs or companies has connected with our school district. So I know we have a handful of them. I'm not sure which one that is, but so they actually come to the schools to give the driver's ed training. So that curriculum is the same as it would be for any student. Ours, we kind of just, it's at least the officers I've spoken with and myself or the student that I have, you kind of just take those baby steps, right? Like, I don't know how good of a driver is. I'm not going to take him during rush hour traffic down Broadway. We maybe try some side streets, working on parking, parallel parking, backing in parking, things like that to I'm a little more comfortable. So it's each officer has their own. We don't have a specific as far as the type of driving we allow them to do. It's kind of our comfort level with those students.
Thank you. Next question I have is from Tisha. And I think this one might be to Greg, I believe. I don't know, Greg, are we able to hear you? Shoot, we can't hear you, Greg.
Greg, if you want to swing over, we could share
okay,
headsets.
okay. Yep, it looks like he's coming over to you, Josh. Okay, I'm gonna just jump to the next one then. Just a moment here.
I can take a question now. I'm back with Josh's headset.
Thank you. All right, so
So
I'm just gonna go ahead.
The do we repair bikes with teaching the kids how? A lot of times we go to our apartment complexes or some of those things, we might have a line of several kids deep. So we're really moving kind of fast, and a lot of the kids we work with are smaller, probably ages 8 and under. If we have older kids and have the time, we would show them how to do it.
Awesome. And Greg, I believe this one's probably to you as well. And Tisha, if I'm not correct, please let me know. It says, I could use a clarification. Is this bike safety, safe routes to school, and bike rodeos covered under SHIP or TZD, or how inside of PD or public health? That's in the chat.
Yeah, I guess I'm not understanding. It's like who. So we do a lot of things together. So safe routes to school is usually done by public health, and we'll partner and we go through them. But as far as that's just like if it's who is funding the officers' time, we're all through the police department there. So we're not like time isn't getting charged to TZD or to a SHIP grant. That's the police department is covering all our time we do for that. But who actually does safe routes to school? That would be a combination of public health and the school district.
Right. And Tisha, if that's not what you meant, feel free to unmute if that's possible and jump in if you'd like. Okay, I am going to jump to a question from Christine Hernandez. And I'm not sure who this is to, but it says, did you try to use actual bike shops and bike repair shops as sponsors or come out to community events with you? Greg, I think that's probably to you.
Yeah, that's a tough one we run into with a few things. We don't, everything we try to do is to keep it completely free, and where there isn't somebody out trying to promote their business, other than if they want to sponsor, and we'll put out that this is who's sponsoring an event. Otherwise, we have issues of then multiple shops, because sometimes when we can get in front of large groups, well, then they want to be involved. Well, now if you let one, how do you not let the other? And now they're out there trying to make money off of an event that we want to be free and to the public. So we really don't. Now, if somebody wanted from a shop wanted to volunteer and just come on out, yeah, we'd always accept somebody to do that. But that we normally don't have. Normally, if somebody wanted to promote their business, which I understand, but for those reasons of trying to keep things completely free, we really don't do that.
Wonderful, thank you. And I see one more question. We've got just another minute here. And this, I believe, is to Tim. Did you see any people doing seatbelt challenges at stoplights? The Urban Dictionary, I believe, is Chinese fire drill.
No, we did not get any complaints about that. That was a concern as we brought this back, but no complaints so far.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, well, our next traffic safety hot dish webinar is on Wednesday, January 24th from 1 to 2:15. Just a moment. I hope you can join us there. And then also join us at the TZD statewide conference, November 14th and 15th. This year's conference will be in Rochester at the Mayo Civic Center. Don't forget that registration is open. And those of you who are my enforcement grantees, please use the coupon code. That's my own little plug right there. And thank you for attending today's webinar. Please follow us on Twitter or X, like us on Facebook at minnesotatcd.org. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.